Okay, thank you all for being patient with us. It sounds like we've got our IT issues solved here.
Wonderful.
Where were we?
We are at Resolution 3354.
Okay, and Councilwoman Pace Snook, if you would present this for us.
Yes, resolution number 3354, a resolution authorizing the mayor on behalf of the city of Fulton, Missouri to execute a contract with Christensen Construction Company of Kingdom City, Missouri for the 2019 asphalt overlay project at an estimated value of $182,500 and to sign all necessary documents in relation to said contract. Make a motion to adopt resolution number 3354 at tonight's council meeting.
Second.
And this is our annual overlay program.
Yes, sir. And the funds are coming both from the, to cover the chip seal that the city council approved a month ago, and then this project.
Gotcha. So if are there any questions on this?
Kyle. Yes, sir. I
Okay.
do have one, Mr.
Chief.
Mayor. On our little dollar amount graph, are we going, the overlays don't have any dollar amounts to attach to them on my sheet? Did I just get something?
The top there, yep.
Yeah, I took those off. I originally, I want to say, last meeting or the one before, I did have values to that, and that was my estimate. My estimate was like, if I remember right, $176,000, and the bid was $182,000. So I did not back into, what street was what for Christensen. So.
And so I guess my question is we're going to do the overlays that are on top and then chip seal down to, because it's a running total on the chip seal.
Right. Street, state, where it says state 10th to 7th, that would bring it to about $170,000. So 170 plus the 182 gets you pretty close to our budgetary amount.
State
So
10th and
we've got 365 that was budgeted. Of that budgeted, that we've done some street patching and stuff. So what we have left is about $352,000. So the plan is to not do anything over what we have budgeted.
Very good. Are there any other questions on this? If not, I'll call for the question. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. That moves forward. Moving on to Resolution 3355. Councilman Shiverdecker, if you would present this.
Yes, sir. Resolution 3355, a resolution authorizing the mayor on behalf of the city of Fulton, Missouri, to sign all necessary documents in relation to a contract with River City Construction of Ashland, Missouri for the construction of a recreation center complex at the bid price of $8,891,000, plus city council approved alterations and establishing an effective date. I make a motion to adopt 3355 at tonight's meeting.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Where do we start?
Mr. Mayor, I have one item on the actual resolution.
There he is.
There are two sections.
Okay.
Thank you very much,
Scroll
Mr.
down.
Stone.
And
Yes.
I would actually like to strike the first, section 2.
Yep.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Second?
And that was the first, section 2, so the contingency?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. discussion on that motion?
No, go ahead. That's fine.
I'm just scrolling down to take a quick look at that, I'm sorry.
You're good.
There we go. Okay, so that section 2 talks about the actual securing the funding for the project. So if we strike that,
Then we don't have to make any change to the next section.
another option would be to call it the next section, section 3, and leave that in there, is that correct?
My motion is to strike it
Right,
completely,
I'm
Mr.
just
Okay.
making discussion here.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm looking at. Okay.
Because we do have to figure out how to pay for it, so, and I know we yeah.
Kathy and I spent time together in the packet. Kind of, the financing's going to kind of depend on how much you want to use from utilities. We have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow afternoon with local banks to discuss the lease purchase and get those documents going.
Okay, well,
I just
are we
don't feel
just jumping
those-
in? Go ahead.
So we have a motion and a second on the floor about section 2.
Oh.
Whether not to leave it in or not.
I would agree to strike it.
Anyone else have a feeling about that?
No, it's a-
Okay, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of striking section 2, say yes.
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 Opposed, no. Okay, the first section 2 is gone. Now we're back to the original motion on the floor to accept the $8.89 million proposal here. Clay?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to share with you a little bit of information about the bid process and how we came to those cost estimates. For the community center, if you take a look on page 17 of the packet that you have in front of you, for the community center, we got 4 bids. The lowest bidder retracted their bid the next day due to a calculation error on their part. All the bids came in higher than expected, so we went back to each bidder and we asked them to do some value engineering to come up with some ideas where costs could be reduced. 2 of the bidders submitted proposals. Those proposals were reviewed by our engineering staff and by the architect. And after review, we determined that there's a potential for maybe $300,000 to $500,000 worth of savings from that original bid price. That is not indicated on page 17. After a contract is awarded, the contractor and the architect would get together and they would come up with an exact price for that savings. Before we did the value engineering and after we did the value engineering, River City was the lowest bid. So they are the lowest bid at this point. Most of you are probably familiar with them, that they've done the state hospital construction recently. And like the resolution reads, that's the company that we're recommending for this project. On August 28th, the park board met. There was a lot of discussion about the project, the bids. Several council members were there, the mayor was there. After the discussion, the park board approved a recommendation to the council. I'm going to ask Mr. Shiverdecker to read that recommendation from the park board.
Park Board recommendation. At the August 28, 2019 Park Board meeting, the members of the Park Board unanimously approved the following recommendation to the City Council for the Community Center and Baseball Softball Complex projects. The roll call of medical votes was Shane Kleins, yes. Craig Sneeden, yes. Jamie A. Strack, yes. Robert Wilson, yes. Jane Hall, yes. Chris Garrett, yes. Wayne Bill absent. Royce Anderson absent. 6 votes affirmative, 2 members absent.
I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about the project.
Does this bid include the furnishings?
On page 17,
Yeah, I've
the
got
total cost price
Was in
includes the furnishings,
That's it,
yes.
okay.
There's an additional fee of, I think it's $170,000 for furnishings, and then another $40,000 for the security system.
Thank you. Yeah. So, 9 days, okay.
And then we also have some work that we're expecting that the city's gonna have to incur to help finish some things on the project as far as electrical, site work, things like that. Is that correct?
Utilities to the building.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not aware of that at this time.
I do have some input on it. If we look at the $425,000 that we're collecting right now, or what the projected to collect is on taxes, if we look at a 15-year loan, the tax alone generates $636,375,000, and if you drew it out to a 20-year loan, it generates $8,500,000 just on the tax alone. And I don't see, we have 800,000 already. So if we look at, if we add that to the 800 or 8,500,000, we're at 9.2.
You're forgetting the interest.
Yeah.
I understand that. I'm just
That's going to
saying.
be a big part of this.
Okay, it's about $11 million on a $9 million. The
Right.
interest is about $11 million.
About 3 million. Yep.
Okay, we didn't talk about when the project came about, that the project was ever going to be 100% self-sufficient. Nothing I can find anywhere, and none of the council members that were on the council have been able to tell me that it was 100% self-sufficient. That's where I asked the city to figure out how we can make this thing work. It was a 66% of the vote went from the people, said 66% of them said, this is what we want to do. We want to move forward with this half-cent sales tax. And
He's right.
I think we can find it. I think we can make it work.
I need to say something. It might be long-winded, so bear with me. Several years ago, we went to the citizens to ask them to raise their sales tax so we can build several things. A $3.5 million rec center, a $2 million, $1.5 million baseball complex, a new swimming pool complex, another splash pad at Carver Park, and a whole bunch of other things is what this $400,000 per year was going to pay for.
Can you show me where that's at? Because no one seems to have that number.
That's in all the literature that was presented. That's what it said.
But no one can produce that for me. I have not seen one iota of that. I was not on the council at that point.
Neither was I, and
no one can produce.
and
I haven't seen that.
I was not on the council either. But every piece of literature that was presented, every display that was up here in City Hall had all that information. That's what was presented to the citizens.
But nobody can produce that for me.
I would just add,
Well-
that was presented to the citizens as what the money could pay for.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes. That's what they voted
the
for.
variety of things that they could pay
Yeah.
for. And again, some of those cost estimates and price tags that were put on those things were 4 years ago,
Well, sure,
Yeah.
4 or 5
when
years.
we started
A
that.
little off.
You know,
So-
so things go up, yeah.
Go ahead.
So we started with a $3.5 million rec center. It went to 4, to 5, to 7.5, and now it's at 9 plus. The baseball complex is now at $6.5 million for the entire complex.
I can't
That's what
support
the-
that, Ballard.
That's
I'm
what the
gonna tell you
latest
right
bid
now.
showed.
Well-
I'm telling you, I can't support a $6.5 million
Well-
baseball complex.
And you wouldn't get any council member on here to do
Well,
that.
fine.
I can't
let's-
support
so-
that.
So let me finish, please. I said I'm gonna be long-winded.
Let him speak.
So, we have a choice. We can go after a $9 million rec center. How do we pay for it? We can take $4 million out of our emergency utility reserves, which our chief financial officer and our auditors say we shouldn't do, but we can do it. It's not illegal. And then we can do a lease purchase for the rest of the facility, which would essentially entail taking every penny of the sales tax money we're getting every year to pay for the loan for 20 years. This is not a one-year purchase to put $90,000 lights in on Business 54. This is a 20-year commitment that we are going to make. 15 years from now, a new city council, 3 years from now, a new city council is going to have to live with. It's going to impact our budget every single year for 20 years. But we can do it. Now, a lot of numbers that have been thrown out over the years as to operating at costs have been, it's about break even, it's a little less than break even. Don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen with the sales tax. Is it going to go up? Is it going to go down? We don't know. But we are committing 20 years of this sales tax money to pay for this rec center.
That's what
If we do that, there's no money left to build a baseball complex, especially at $6.5 million. There's no money left to build a new swimming pool complex, which is now like $4 to $15 million from what we saw at the MML conference.
5 million.
We're not going to be able to afford a new splash pad. You're really constrained on any project, any capital improvement project they want to do for a long time.
I think the Parks and Rec Department is aware of that,
Well,
but
I
the
don't-
Park Board is really pushing for us to get started on this project now so that the costs don't increase.
well, let me finish.
And you
please.
also have to remember, we're not committing to a 20-year anything tonight. All we're doing tonight is approving a complex be considered and built.
But somehow we got to pay
That's all
for
we're
it.
doing tonight.
But somehow we got to pay for it.
Well, but you don't put that in there today. We figure that out after we figure out whether or not we're going to do this.
If I'm going to commit to building a $9 million facility, before I commit to it, I want to figure out how we're going to pay for it. Okay? I'm not going to go out and buy a car at home until I figure out how I can pay for it. So that's part of my decision process, is how am I going to pay for this?
And
And
that's
it's
why
not
you've
my-
come up with a decision you've already decided.
And it's not
So-
not my money, it's these people's money.
So that's a great
It's
So
our
if-
money
so-
too.
That's a great point.
So if we decide to build this, this is it. This is all we're going to be able to build. If we decide not to build it, that's a big deal too. We'll never be able to build a new rec center. Never, ever. It's just the costs are going to go up. It's going to be too expensive, but the money might be able to be used to work on a ball complex, on a swimming pool complex, on something else.
Yeah, but the
So we have
number-
to decide,
The number one surveyed need was the community rec center.
and that's fine. We just have to understand what we're going to say. If we want to say yes, we're committing this city and this council to fund this project for 20 years. If that's what the majority wants to do, you got to live with it.
And we've been waiting
Well,
20 years
okay.
for something.
Well, it hasn't happened yet.
So
And
if
the
we're going to
majority of
commit
the
it for 20
citizens-
years, then let's
But
commit
if,
it for 20
but
years.
if you don't, if you want to build it, you're not building anything else.
That's not true.
Well, there's no
That's-
money.
That's your opinion.
Yeah,
That's not true.
I've looked at the money. There's no money.
Councilman Simmons, I would say that if you would look in the packet on pages 19 to 21, I offer 14 different options on either funding the community center only, the community center and the baseball complex in phases, or doing a lease purchase. That's 14 different options that I come up with. Mr. Johnson came up with 6 different options. Some of them are very favorable to the city. Some of them are tough on the city. I think that's a question that the council will have to decide with the administration.
Well, the one I was proposing looked like the least impact to the city of taking money out of the emergency reserves. That's one of the options that was presented in these packages. We got to come up with the money somewhere if we're going to build it.
Okay.
That's the only way we can really do it without impacting the rest of the budget, which we got other things we got to do.
I
So-
have a couple
We always do.
solutions.
Yeah.
I have a couple solutions and a couple things to say. Our Parks and Rec board is amassed of citizens of this town that are put in place and asked to sit on that board, first off by our mayors. That's who makes up that park board. Every other board that we rely on to do homework for us comes to us with a suggestion, whether I personally agree with it or not. In the time that I've been on this council, I have never, ever, ever seen it go against any other board. And why should we go against the Parks and Rec board at this point? There's not a reason why we should go against the Parks and Rec board. The last thing I'd like to do, not the last thing, but I'd like to ask a show of hands in the crowd, who is in favor of moving forward with this project? Thank you. I'll ask a question. Who's opposed to this project moving forward? I'll give time to somebody else.
And I would just add that, we've, like Jane Hall said, we've done some great things for the community. I mean, we've done a new fire station, new police station, new city hall, new warehouse, new animal shelter, a golf course that brings people to this community. We've done a lot of great things. The city's paid 92% of that, almost $17 million of those costs, with no designated funding source. The people of the city approved a funding source, so all we're asking is for 25 to 35% from the city. So that's kind of where we're at. Historically, the city's been able to do some of these things. I think it's possible. Mr. Johnson can add more to that if he doesn't believe it's possible or if he thinks it's possible. But it's been done historically. There's options to do it. And again, it's up to you guys to decide that.
And I think the people want a rec center. I think they would much prefer a rec center at $4.5 million.
We all
A
would.
pole barn.
We all would.
A pole barn.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it'd look better in a pole barn.
Again, that's what we all want.
But whatever,
That's what we all want.
that's what we're committing to. We're committing to a lot of money, all of the sales tax, pretty much going to funding the rec center.
That's what it was
If-
for.
Well, it was for other things too.
No, it was for
Okay.
to fund these projects. That's what it was for.
Okay, and if people just want to have this one project, that's what we're going to get. That's,
And I'd like to address your comments about the baseball complex. I know that's the next resolution. That bid that came in at $6.5 million, one, it was invalid because they didn't follow the correct procedures. Two, their prices were unreasonably high. And I'll give you just one example. 40 park shelter, they bid that at $286,000. I have a 30 by 40 park shelter bid on my desk with restrooms included for $85,000.
okay.
So you can see that those numbers are a little bit skewed, and they were talking about $1 million concession stand. I'm not going to ask the council to spend $1 million on a concession stand. I'm not going to do that. So I don't think, the fact that we only got one bid that really wasn't a valid bid, we don't have much to compare it with.
But that's the only bid we had. That's the only number I had to go by.
And I don't think you can look at that as part of the decision-making process for this. I think, talking about it with the engineering department and things like that, I think the city would be better if we were our own general contractor on the project and did it in phases, where we bid out the fence, we bid out the irrigation, we bid out the concession stand, because we're gonna get a lot more local, smaller contractors bidding on those smaller pieces. I think the project was too complicated, too diverse for a lot of the local contractors to take on.
And we can do things along the way.
I like that idea.
And there may be years where the money's not available,
Yeah.
and you have to take a break and you pause on it a little bit.
Okay.
I think we're getting a pretty good idea of where everybody's at on this. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but if there's anyone that's on the fence still that has questions, please bring them up. If you got concerns, let's talk about them. Now's the time. It's a big deal.
How solid is this number, this 8.8 million? I understand that we tonight are voting on moving forward.
Right.
So we vote and we pass and we move forward. Can we potentially scale that back later to save money, maybe cut costs in some way? It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money.
And we can, and that's why we had the bidders do the value engineering, and they came up with some good ideas, and we took some of those ideas to the architect, and the architect said, hey, yeah, we can do this, but our engineers say we can't do this. So they're not going to put a lot of work into it until we award the contract. Once we award the contract, then River City's going to sit down with our architect's going to put some work into it, and we're going to say, okay, maybe if we use this different flooring, we're going to save this money. Will it save us millions of dollars? Probably not. But it could save us potentially $300,000 to $500,000.
I see.
So there are opportunities for some cost reduction.
Very good.
Thank you to the park board for your work.
Yeah.
Thank you to Clay, and thank you to everybody else that's up here as well on the whole thing. It's not an
Obvious
easy
that we're a
topic.
passionate group.
It's not an
Yeah,
easy
that's true.
topic.
We care, yes, we do.
So is there any more discussion on this? I'll call for the question. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no.
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 Can you raise your hands if you're a no, please?
2 no's.
Thank you.
Let's build a rec center, guys. We'll find a way to. We'll be talking to you all as we find out more about the financing part of it, how we're going to make it happen. If you do have some input, we would really appreciate it. I think, is everybody kind of feeling like the $4 million pulling it out of reserve is where we want to try to do this? I mean, Bill, we don't want to kill our budget every year. for
I'd
the
like to
next
have
10
more
or
discussion
15
on that at a separate meeting.
Yep.
Since we weren't able to have our
Yeah.
in-depth work session on it.
That's true.
Okay.
I'd like for us to schedule a special meeting for that.
And it may just be something we could talk about more next week, because we're meeting next week again too, so
Right.
hopefully we'll have more information for you. Very good, moving on, resolution number 3356. Councilwoman Reclure, if you would present this.
Yes. Let me see. A resolution authorizing the mayor, resolution number 3356, a resolution authorizing the mayor on behalf of the city of Fulton, Missouri, to sign all necessary documents in relation to the concrete with S&A Equipment and Builders LLC of Fulton, Missouri, for site excavation for a baseball/softball field complex at the bid price of $333,827.78, plus city council approved alterations, and establish an effective date. I make a motion that resolution number 3356 be adopted at tonight's meeting.
Second.
Thank you.
So we have a resolution motion on the table and a second. So the 300 would be for strictly the dirt work, is that correct?
That's correct. The dirt work.
For all 4 fields?
The dirt work for 6 fields and the parking lot area. We would not do the total parking lot construction, which at this point would probably just be gravel. I think we'd wait till we get further into the phases to have the parking lot so it doesn't grow up in weeds and things like that. So yes, it is just for the dirt work of the 6 fields, and that would be it for phase 1.
And Clay, this would also give us opportunity to use that site for other things, potentially as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a more level site. How usable it'll be, I don't know at that point. We just have to see what it looks like.
I mean, one item I've always brought up is that it would make an excellent site for a cross-country trail. Bring in an invitational, be able to sponsor a full cross-country meet in Fulton. And if, with all this cleared out, it'd be a perfect place for that, even before we move forward with other things.
Yeah.
There's lots of opportunity on that space once we get the work started.
With the cost of the rec center being more than we had hoped, I'm kind of thinking, I'd kind of like to see this one not be approved due to the fact, we don't know the total cost of the rec center, we don't know the total cost of the fixtures, what it's going to take to furnish it. There's just still a lot of unknowns associated with the rec center. I believe that it's going to take a city contribution on an annual basis to keep the rec center open. And as far as borrowing money to do the furnishing on the rec center, I just, to borrow money to pay for an item that's not going to be depreciating, that's something that's going to be used. And without having a dedicated plan of how we're going to pay for the rest of the improvements on the ball field. And within a week or so, we're going to have a dedicated plan on how to pay for the rec center. But it's going to be more than a few weeks before we come up with a dedicated plan on how to build out the ball fields entirely. So the money that the Parks and Rec has secured and has in the bank based on the sales tax, I would hope that could be applied to the furnishings of the rec center and to offset some of the cost of financing.
Sound not that way.
So I'm thinking we don't do the ball fields at this time.
Clay, if we didn't move forward with a ball field complex till, say, 2021, what would the opportunity of doing this work now, what would that give the city versus doing this work a year from now?
I think obviously the cost will probably be higher a year from now.
But what utilization of the space?
I think what it allows us to do, once we got the project started, we can start looking at ways that the city labor can do some of the projects, the smaller parts of the project, similar to what we did with the city warehouse. I'm confident that my staff could go out and pour concrete and make sidewalks. I'm confident that other departments could contribute things, and a lot of that depends on what their priorities are during the year and things like that. But I think there's some little things that can be done to help get it going. Obviously, you're not going to realize the revenue until the thing is complete and it's up and running. So yeah, I mean, there's some potential there.
But truly, it would just be piecemealing until we got to a contract for the complex.
Yeah.
Not necessarily other things that we could do with it.
Yeah, and like I said,
And it's not going to be a park space. It's not going to be a dog park until we build complex. It's not going to be anything like that, correct?
Yeah, I don't believe so. I mean, there could be activities held there, but I don't think anything.
But nothing of real
Yes.
significance.
Yeah.
And Clay, you said this would not include the parking lot dirt work?
It includes the dirt work for the parking lot, but not the construction. And when I say construction, I mean the gravel, the handicap spots, things like that. So it would just be moving the dirt on that site.
Okay. Be hard to hold events without a parking lot.
Yeah.
It would. And I think the big thing is what it shows is that, obviously the community, like Mr. Simmons said, they wanted a lot of different things. They want a baseball complex, they want a new aquatic center, they want a community center. We can't do all three of them. We just don't have the money. I think everybody understands that, but I think it shows that the community that we're committed to working towards that goal of having those things eventually. You know, even if it takes a little bit each year, it shows that we're making progress and we're using their money the way they intended it to be.
Clay, what would be the scoping timeframe of what we have in the resolution? Is that a 1-month project, 3-month project?
I think we're giving them 80 days.
Okay,
I've-
so
I've
less
had-
than 3 months.
Yeah, I think if we started it this week or next week, you could have it done this year.
Okay.
But again,
If
that
they're
depends on,
available to.
depends on the contractor's schedule and once we award the contract and things like that, so.
But if
there-
we chose to wait, it's not a long time. It's not a big it's not a 6-month project.
No,
I guess where I'm going is if we waited till next spring to look at something like this,
yeah, you would just have to
it'd be a
rebid it.
3-month project.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be different pricing, but it'd be
Yes.
just another 3-month project.
It would be.
Okay.
It's a very short project.
So my question is, Clay, is there, with concerns on some of the baseball field dirt work, does the bid expire 60 days after it was open? What is the expiration date of this particular?
Kyle, can you help me on that one? Do you remember what was it 60 or 90 days? I'd say that's probably right, because. Okay.
60 days after the opening. So we're in September. So we would have till approximately October 27th.
What if we looked at tabling this for now, and then maybe looked at some alternate ways, like we did with the warehouse facility, where we rented a machine and used some labor from the city to help move dirt?
There we go.
We could table this for a little while and see if that's even a possibility, or,
If that's a motion, Mr. Shiverdecker, I would gladly second
I'll
that.
second that.
I would
make
agree
it a
with that.
motion.
I'll second that.
All
I
right.
assumed that was a motion, so
Yeah, yeah, thank
we
you.
were down that road already.
Yep, I think so too.
And just spitballing here, would there be any room to rethink the 6 ball fields and maybe do 2 at a time? To where you're not investing $500,000 in something that's not going to be used for 5 or 6 or 7 years? I don't know. Does that make any sense?
From
Yeah.
a dirt work perspective, I don't know that it does.
Right.
Yeah,
But if we choose not to do the dirt work, maybe we revisit the whole
I know
approach to it.
if you only build 2 fields, you're not gonna get the
No.
competitive teams to
you know,
come
yeah,
play.
the
Right.
revenue's not gonna be there.
Yeah, it's,
If we want to stay true to the business model that we have for it, where we want to attract teams from around the state and we want to generate revenue, we want it to pay for itself, I think you need to do the fields. Even if you have 6 fields and no grass surrounding them, and maybe you don't have your concession up where you want it to be, or maybe all the sidewalks aren't in, I think you could start having tournaments. But I think obviously the fields are a critical component, and you need a large set of fields. You don't need 1 or 2. I mean, you won't attract a lot of teams.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right, well, we have a motion and a second on the floor.
Is there any more discussion on that motion? If not, I'll call for the question to table this. All those in
Do we-
favor say yes.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, do we have to put a date on that, just so it doesn't come back up next meeting? And if
It
if
could
we
be
don't
pulled off the
decide?
table
We can
until the
pull it off
contract
and
expires.
put it back on next meeting if we need to.
Okay, thank you.
I think obviously once the 60 days is up, that window's closed.
That'll give us
probably.
2 more meetings to discuss it.
What would the council like to see from the Parks Department in the meantime?
On the ball field?
Yes.
Is that your question?
Yes.
Speaking for myself, I appreciate where you're talking about us being our own contractor, being able to piece this out, look at it chunk by chunk, not little pieces. We're going to have to look at big pieces. We're going to have to look at chunks. But I think we need to get past the next few meetings, get past a few more discussions on the rec center, a few more discussions on, we've got the budget coming up for next year. I think that's what we're looking at, not necessarily anything specific on, I'm not looking for you to provide anything specific on the ball fields in the next couple of meetings. I think we just need to get through the other business at the moment.
Okay.
Well, maybe some alternative ways to move dirt instead of having a bid process to move it.
Thank
Maybe,
you,
like I
Mr.
said, we
Shipper.
were talking about,
Okay.
renting a machine and doing some in-house stuff if we can. I realize there's a lot of dirt out there that has to be moved, so.
Hey, does everybody have a shovel?
Jane, can you run a backhoe, I think is what the mayor was asking.
Very good.
Thank you again to everybody involved.
Thank you, Clay.
So we have a motion on the floor to table 3356. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. That's tabled. It's not dead, it's just tabled. Okay, moving on to first read of ordinances. Councilman Braun, if you would present bill number 1556.
Bill number 1556, an ordinance to elect to have violations of the municipal ordinance of the city of Fulton, Missouri heard and determined by the Associate Circuit Judge of Callaway County, Missouri, and repealing sections 38-1, 38-3, 38-4, and 38-5 from the Fulton City Code. I make a motion to move Bill 1556 for second reading at the next scheduled meeting.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this?
Mr. Mayor, would someone briefly describe this to our audience?
Want to do it, Courtney, or what?
I'll
Go ahead.
fill in.
Go ahead.
Okay. So kind of over the course of the past few months, Bill and I have really been taking a look at the municipal court and the functions that it currently handles. We are finding that as we go along, many municipal courts are being absorbed by their county or by their associate division. And Bill attended a conference where he learned that pretty much within the next 3 to 5 years, most municipal courts are going to be going over to the state level. And that's the assumption by the state level as well. They want to take those on so they can really manage it and make sure that it's to the standards that they want. After some changes that have happened really in the past 5-10 years, the state's really coming down on those small courts and making sure that they're handling the processes appropriately, and that those processes are transparent and approachable to defendants. So in turn, that's making this whole process a little more difficult for cities. And basically, we're taking a look at this. We've had Tom Riley, the city attorney, on this matter, take a look at it to try to find the best way for the city of Fulton to make that move now, and also for the county to also be able to take on the court in the best manner possible as well. So Bill and I and Heather, our municipal court clerk, and Mr. Sterner, the city's prosecuting attorney, met with the circuit clerk's office a couple weeks ago. It was a very good meeting. They're already aware that we're looking to make this change. They technically can't say no. I'll throw that in there. They don't have the opportunity to deny it, but the meeting overall went very, very well, and they're open to the idea of us coming over there, and actually they're looking to fast track this process for us and get this transferred over by January 1. Typically, they have up to 6 months in order to take us on.
It won't pretty much change anything for the police department. They'll still write tickets, tickets will still be submitted. We will still get the fines. We will not get the court costs. When we will have to change a couple of ordinances in order to make our court fine structure in compliance with the circuit court fine structure. I think in the county already, Oz has done it, New Bloomfield's done it, Kane has done it, I think. I spoke to the administrator down at Whole Summit there looking at it. They wanted to see how our process goes before they get into it. Many towns across the state have already done this. Like Courtney said, the conference I went to, the actual state court's clerk boss was there and gave the presentation. And she talked about all the rules and all the changes that have been made and said, just hang on, there's more coming. They want to, remember some situations that happened a few years ago in St. Louis? That's the driving force in all this. A lot of towns are using their courts as a cash register, and that cannot be said for us. We're a long ways from that, but they're wanting to get control.
Very good. Does everyone pretty well understand what we're doing here? Good with that? Any questions, comments?
What will come of our existing court clerk?
I'm sorry?
Our existing court clerk, what will come of her?
We've talked to her, and we will do everything we can to find her a position within the community that is, both meets her qualifications and her desires. And with the turnover and staff that we have, I'm pretty confident we'll be able to find something.
Very good. Any other comments or questions? If not, I'll call for the question. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. That bill passes for second reading at our next meeting. And Councilman Simmons, if you would present Bill 1557.
Yes, sir. Bill number 1557, an ordinance authorizing the mayor on behalf of the city of Fulton, Missouri, to sign all necessary documents in relation to a contract with Reinhold Electric Incorporated of St. Louis, Missouri, to provide runway end identifier lights, REIL, at Elton Hensley Memorial Airport, and to sign all necessary documents in relation to the state block agreement pertaining to this project. I recommend we approve Bill number 1557 to move to second reading at the next meeting.
Second.
Okay. Kyle, if you would,
Kyle's always in the hot seat.
getting a workout tonight. Sorry about that.
Speaking of hot seat, can we turn the air down?
Yeah, are you cold? Oh, you're warm.
It is warm. We had a lot of people in here
A
tonight.
lot of people in here. It's still warm.
Yes, sir.
Apparently, it can't go down any further, so we're going to swelter in peace.
Well, thank you for checking.
Gosh, really good, yeah.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, he comes like that.
Can you talk about that ordinance, the real lights, a little bit?
Yeah, the real lights, runway 1836 is the north-south runway out at the airport. These are safety lights out at the airport that are concerning that we need to get fixed. So, again, we've talked about this in past meetings, but this project is, the real lights and the hangar project up next are being funded by the state via an FAA grant that we get on we get $150,000 annually as long as the federal government keeps subsidizing this grant. So our share of it is 10%. So for the real lights, $28,000, we're $2,800 or so.
Good deal.
We need to spend this or obligate this, get it under grant by the end of the month. So kind of a big deal that we get it pushed forward.
Thank you, Kyle. We hear about real lights. It seems like I have since day one, but this will be a good thing for us.
Any other questions?
Okay, I
Go
have a
far.
Pardon?
I was telling him, don't go far.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
right.
Get him a chair.
So I have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion on this? If not, I'll call for the question. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. That moves on to second reading. And We are back to needing, Councilman Stone, if you would, fill in for Steve on this.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Bill number 1558.
Bill number 1558, an ordinance authorizing the mayor on behalf of the city of Fulton, Missouri to sign all necessary documents in relation to a contract with Javiation to develop a project plan and development for additional box hangars at Elton Hensley Memorial Airport, and to sign all necessary documents in relation to State Block Agreement Project 19-040A-2. I move that bill number 1558 be moved for second reading at the next scheduled council meeting.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. I know we've talked about this quite a bit. Is there anything new to add to this, Kyle, or changes?
Nothing really new. It's for the design and some construction services for the hangars and taxiways that are necessary to get aircrafts to those hangars. So it's for the design and construction services of that. There's really nothing else. Any other questions?
Oh, I do have one, and it kind of, they both go together. I noticed reading that we've asked for an extension. When do we have to have these done so we don't have to go to that extension and count on the federal government to extend it as well?
By the end of this month, September 30th is when we have to have it done. So.
We'll do the second, third reading on the 24th.
Okay,
Next week.
perfect.
Yeah, it's next week.
Very good. I have a motion and a second. Are there any other questions or concerns on this? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. 1558 passes on to next meeting. Okay, moving on to second reads. Councilman Shiverdecker, if you would present 1554.
And if there are no objections, I'll do third reading tonight also. Bill number 1554, an ordinance filing the tax rate and levying taxes for the calendar year of 2019 on all taxable property in the city of Fulton, Missouri, and establishing an effective date. I make a motion that we advance Bill 1554 for third reading at tonight's meeting.
Second?
Okay, got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed, no. That will pass on for third reading tonight, if you would.
Bill number 1554, an ordinance filing the tax rate and levying taxes for the calendar year of 2019 on all taxable property in the city of Fulton, Missouri, and establishing an effective date. I make a motion we advance Bill 1554 for final passage at tonight's meeting.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. You've heard bill number 1554 presented 3 times. Now we have time for the final consideration. Please answer yes or no. Take roll call, Madam Clerk.
Okay, Ms. Pace Snook.
Yes.
Ms. Reclus?
Yes.
Ms. Sabacher?
Yes.
Mr. Shiverdecker?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
And Mr. Braun?
Yes.
7 council members affirmative, 1 absent.
And bill number 1554 passed. Moving on, 1555, if you would, Councilwoman Pace Snook.
Yes. Bill number 1555, an ordinance adopting the Callaway County Hazard Mitigation Plan for the city of Fulton, Missouri, and establishing an effective date. I make a motion to place bill number 1555 for third reading at tonight's council meeting.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. We did hear about this last meeting. Were there any concerns or questions on this? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of Bill 1555 say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. And if you would, present again.
Bill number 1555, an ordinance adopting the Callaway County Hazard Mitigation Plan for the city of Fulton, Missouri, and establishing an effective date. I make a motion to place bill number 1555 for final passage at tonight's council meeting.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. You've heard Bill number 1555 presented 3 times. Now is the time for final consideration. Please answer yes or no to the clerk as she reads roll call.
Okay, Ms. Reclus?
Yes.
Ms. Seebacher?
Yes.
Mr. Shiverdecker?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Braun?
Yes.
And Ms. Pace Snook?
Yes.
7 council members affirmative, 1 absent.
1555 passed. Moving on to third reading, if you would, Councilwoman Reclus, 1553.
Yes. Bill number 1553, an ordinance repealing Chapter 2, Administration, Article 7, Open Meetings and Records, Fulton City Code, and enacting a new article in lieu thereof. I make a motion that adopt resolution number 1553 at tonight's meeting.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or concerns on 1553? If not, I'll call for the question. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. You've heard Bill 1553 presented 3 times. Now is the time for final consideration. Please answer yes or no as the clerk reads roll call.
Okay, Ms. Seebacher?
Yes.
Mr. Shiverdecker?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Braun?
Yes.
Ms. Pace Snook?
Yes.
And Ms. Reclus?
Yes.
7 council members affirmative, 1 absent.
All right, 1553 passes. Moving on to announcements, Madam Clerk, if you would present those.
Certainly. Our next city council meeting will be held Tuesday, September 24th at 6:30 p.m. And the annual Town and Country Dinner will be held on Thursday, September 19th at 5 p.m. at Callaway Electric Cooperative for those council members and department heads who have RSVP'd to attend.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I just want to remind the council, at the last meeting that I was present for, there was a flyer passed around about a poverty simulation that's occurring tomorrow evening at Court Street United Methodist. Starts at 4:30. It's a very significant simulation for the community, for anybody who is a community leader, a business owner, or just a member of the community to attend to get a very good perspective on poverty in our community. And then I want to remind everybody, as they mentioned with the Callaway 200 Gala that's coming up in November, it is limited tickets. There's only going to be a certain number of tickets sold for that event, and so I encourage all the council members and community to start planning for that bicentennial event by attending that gala.
Very good. And I'll just say we did hear a little bit about the Town and Country Dinner this week. Sounds like it's going to be kind of fun, so should be a little bit different and entertaining.
Motion. Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion and a second. I do not have a need for exec session, so we'll take that motion. All those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed, no.